And welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you again for joining me to hear some messages from the higher realms. And today the message is specifically from Sanat Kumara. So I know a lot of you might know who Sanat Kumara is, and some of you might be like, who? Sanat what? And so before I share the message and how it came about too, I want to tell you a little bit about Sanat Kumara. And he basically is what's called an ascended master from the higher realms. And so an ascended master is somebody who has mastered their lifetimes on earth. They no longer need to have experiences on earth to help increase their soul's journey in knowledge or wisdom. They've gained all the knowledge they needed within the earthly realm experience. Therefore, they have ascended to a kind of master status, for lack of a better word, beyond that of the earthly realms, meaning they understand the earth journey. They have lived both the highs and the lows and the middles of it in many, many lifetimes, therefore transcending the need to come back. Now, there are many ascended masters, in which I do intend to talk about many of them because I have channeled messages from several of them. But today's is specifically on Sanat Kumara, and he's been coming through a lot for me lately, especially since about the summer. And interesting enough, he is one who is involved deeply in the ascension of the planet, in the ascension of humanity. And he's a part of what they call the Great White Brotherhood, which is kind of like a spiritual fraternity of ascended beings. And again, he works a lot with Buddha, the energy that is Buddha, in, again, this ascension of the planet. And so to have him come through in messages is really quite amazing. I'm very honored to do it, but it's also really funny because every time he comes, he brings an offering with his energy, and oftentimes it's this bowl of mangoes or papayas. It's always this bowl of fruit, which is an offering to meet over the eating of fruit, which, I mean, is kind of funny, but it's really sweet how he shows up. And so I wanted to share that with you guys so you have a little bit of context of who I'm talking about. Now, the reason why he's coming through is because he wanted to share a message specific for light workers, which I thought was really special. And I did channel this directly, and so I am going to post the link to the actual direct channeling, so you guys can see a little bit of how I do that. It was really neat to be able to capture it, and he was actually the one that recommended. He said, make sure you capture this on video, press play. And I was like, what? Because I was in the midst of working on something else. And he said, press play and record what comes. And so I did, right? And so I do share that with you guys to see how it happens. There's about a 30-second lag in quiet airtime, and that's just me tuning into the energies. So yeah, you guys can get the straight source of it there. But I wanted to explain it in the podcast because I wanted to give you guys context and a little bit more understanding. So this kind of carries on from the podcast from last week, which was all about death and dying. Sorry, I just had to check my keyboard. All about death and dying. And in order to understand that better, Sanat came through to explain a visual, and that's what I want to share with you guys. So what he showed me was the concept of third dimensional reality is as we see it. So here we are, all of us walking around in 3D reality. Now, when you go down into a subway station and you're waiting on that platform before you get on a train, that subway station platform is what he compared fourth dimension. And then the various trains that are coming through to take people to where they need to go are like the many portals that have opened up to take souls to help them cross over. So the various trains go to different places, just like the various portals take souls to the various places they will best continue on their soul journey. And so, like I said, there is an increase of souls that are choosing to leave and transcend and continue their journeys onward somewhere else. But if you go back to a couple podcasts before that, we talked about how fourth dimension is like this interface between 3D world and 5D and onward. So as soon as we move out of the realm of the physical existence, right, physical bodies, we step into fourth dimension and we move up through that into fifth and beyond. Now, because fourth dimension is this interface, you can have both high vibe souls in fourth dimension and also lower vibe souls in fourth dimension. So you can have kind of pesky spirits or energies that can increase fear on the planet, increase worry and anxiety, but you can also have beautiful beings of light who come through to instill messages to those that can reach that fourth dimension and channel it through. And this is why we've always been saying that if you're getting messages from the higher realms, try to ensure that they're from fifth dimension or above. Ask that they be of light. If the messages that are coming through are instilling fear and worry and anguish and anxiety, then that's not a message of the light. That's not coming through from the highest sources possible. If that happens, you have to kind of shake it off, clear your energy, and redirect. And so carrying on from that, what Sanat Kumara came through to share was they've been in the midst of cleaning up fourth dimensional space. And they showed it to me kind of, there was one spirit that was showing me, and again, these are visuals so that I understand it, but he had these binoculars and he was scouring what was the microcosm of fourth dimension, is what he called it. And he was looking to make sure that they gathered all the souls that were kind of hanging out, that were remnants, that hadn't moved on, so that they could move on and move forward, so that the souls that do move into fourth dimension to cross can do so in peace and harmony, without fear. And so again, if we bring that back to a very human construct, if you are to go take the subway to go somewhere, if it's a really dingy, dodgy subway station that's dark, full of riffraff, it's dirty, you're not really going to want to go in there, and it's going to be kind of a scary experience when you're in there waiting for your train. But if a community gathered together and cleaned up the train station, they painted it, they had bright light in there, they had signs showing you different places to sit, garbage cans so that there's no litter on the ground, and security guards, you're not going to have a problem moving onto that platform to wait for your train and then get onto the appropriate train, right? So basically, this is what he's saying they've been doing in fourth dimension. And they've also brought in these beings that they call vectors, who are like these kind of security guard, so to speak, energies. And these are to ensure, again, this safety, this harmonious energy of peace within fourth dimension as these transitions happen. Now, that being said, he wanted us to understand that access to this fourth dimensional frequency right now and for about the next 2 weeks is kind of what I understood, may be limited for some light workers. Some light workers are going to find when they try to tune in, they can't get anywhere and they keep kind of hitting a wall. And it's because they're really needed on the third dimensional planet right now to shine their light, to be positive, to bring that higher energetic consciousness, be very present in 3D and available to be a source of inspiration, because that's what's needed to sustain and increase the higher vibrational frequency on the planet, which we're seeing from those Schumann resonance numbers, right? So some of you, if you're feeling blocked and you're very much a light worker and in tune, it is simply that you are needed to be 3D and present here. There's others of you that will be drawn into this fourth dimensional frequency, and you may be wondering, what the heck am I doing here? What's going on? Why does it feel weird? Or why am I being pulled out of my head or my body energy so I feel like I'm in a fog all the time? If you're feeling like you're in a fog and like you're needing to sleep a ton, it's because you're being pulled into this fourth dimensional frequency, or perhaps fifth, and I'll explain that one in a second. If you're spending time in fourth dimensional frequency, you're basically helping as a guide, a director, anybody that can facilitate those coming into that fourth dimensional platform. So you may be somebody that is helping to receive spirits that come into that platform and wondering which portal, which train do they take. You might be somebody that's helping to guide them, helping to ensure it's a seamless, safe, harmonious transition from 3D through 4 into 5th and beyond. So if you find you're feeling spacey, that's most likely why you're very present in 4th dimension. Now, he also went on to say that if you're finding you're needing to sleep for a long time during the night, and you may be having vivid dreams in this, or you may be just completely conked out, but you're sleeping solid, you're going to bed super early, which is totally out of character. This is because you're spending time in 5th dimension again, as a light worker. And what you're doing is you're helping to receive the souls that have crossed into the higher dimensions to ensure that they get to where they are going in that higher dimension. You're welcoming them. You're like somebody, if I could give this example, like someone that welcomes people to a resort and brings them a drink and says, hey, welcome, time for you to relax. Here's all the things you can do. You know, you're kind of that a greeter in a sense, because everybody has their roles to play in this very, very transformational point on the planet right now, like we've been saying. So whether you are very present in third dimension, you are feeling foggy and out of your body and spending time in fourth dimension, or you are sleeping a ton and being a greeter in fifth dimension, you are doing your part right now. And we're going to find that a lot of this is happening, again, for these next 2 weeks, which leads up to a really interesting conjunction on December 14th, which is when we have the new moon, where Scorpio meets Sagittarius. And this is in Vedic astrology, this is in the energetics of Gandanta. And Gandanta is a time where big transformations happen, big shifts of planetary consciousness happen, things fall apart so they can be rebuilt. And again, that's not all a negative. This can be when new ideas start, new businesses begin, new shifts in consciousness that radically change medicine happen, transformative times. This also can be times though when we have more earthquakes or destruction on the planet as well, because as we know, destruction allows for regrowth. Now I say all of this because I've been having many dreams the last 2 weeks or so of floods and fires, and floods meeting fires. And again, this is so the symbolism of Scorpio meeting Sagittarius, because Scorpio is a water sign, Sagittarius is a fire sign. And when a water sign and a fire sign meet, that is also the time of Gandanta, of these massive changes. I've also been shown in my dreams a dead scorpion on its back meeting the sign of the archer in Sagittarius. So there's a big shift coming with this new moon, and I'm not going to say that this shift is necessarily negative. None of this is negative in a sense right now if we look at it from the higher perspective. This is all changing where we're going. This is shifting the planet in consciousness, which is what we want as a whole. Now, I'm going to bring that back to the podcast of last week. And again, I'm expressing this from a higher level consciousness, is the souls that are choosing to depart the planet at this time are doing so because it is in the best interest of their soul journey. Either they've completed what it is they need to do, or they've determined they would be better off moving on into another dimension, place, or time, or they're simply done and don't want to be here for this next phase of transformation. The soul is always involved in when they're going to transition, and nobody ever dies alone. And as you can see from what Sanat Kumara is saying, Spirit on the other side has been working really hard to ensure that this fourth dimensional platform is cleaned out, is bright, is welcoming. It's like there's music playing, there's people to help guide others onto the right portals, trains, so that they get to where they're supposed to go. And there's greeters on the other side to receive them. Nobody is lost. Nobody will get lost in this, because we're not at a point in the ascension of humanity where getting lost is beneficial anymore on the higher or in the higher realms. So I share this with you guys with a host of information and insights in here that I know we could totally tangent into, and I will continue to more so. But this podcast is kind of a, it's also a little taste of what's being offered in the cosmic consciousness circles that I'm offering on avalonspirit.com. This is higher realm understandings. These are direct channelings from the either ascended masters, higher beings, archangels, or the three guides of the light, which are usually the ones who join us here on the podcast. And again, it's higher consciousness knowledge. So if you find that this doesn't land for you, that is absolutely okay. It doesn't have to, and then it's obviously not meant to, and that's fine, because you are at where you're at for the reasons that you're there, and you're exactly where you need to be. If this does land for you, then it's of purpose that it be shared. And this is what Sanat Kumara said to me. He said, share this for the light workers, because they need to understand what's happening. No one is being left out. Everyone is serving their purpose right now. And we're so grateful for everyone who is stepping up, stepping out, being their brightest selves right now as we move through this very important time. So I share that with you guys with lots of love in my heart. I felt very reassured and comforted by his messages. So they were brought forth in such a beautiful energy of love and compassion for the planet. And again, remember, being that he is an ascended master, he has been through many trials and tribulations on this planet to gain all the wisdom to understand how we are feeling as light workers, even in the various levels of ascension that we carry. And he's also here right now to help ensure that these changes do happen on our planet. So as Spirit has been saying, and the three guides of the light have been saying, we are being guided so much right now. So if nothing else, trust in that. Let Spirit show you the signs and symbols of this guidance right now. And so again, for those of you that are interested, I will post the link. You'll be able to look just below and find the link to the direct channel that I did. And if that so interests you to see. And I'm sure there will be much more to share next Monday already, because it just seems like there's a lot of information coming down the pipe right now for us. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll chat soon.